Hey, it's your boy. It's almost June. It's almost freaking June, which means we are at the end of quarter 2 for crowdfunding. And a lot of big names said we're doing it in quarter 2. And well, you're running out of time if you're one of those people. We have a few of those. And as well, a much bigger June than I was initially expecting, even say a week ago prior to me filming this at the end of May. Because now we've got some much bigger name campaigns coming back to us from a lot of your favorite folks. And again, anyone that says crowdfunding is dead also did not look at all of the crowdfunding pages that were easily funded in the 5 and 6 digit figures from this past week. It's still going. It's hot and heavy. Let's do this. First up, 35,000 people can't be wrong, right? Awaken Realms, their next project, however you want to pronounce it. We'll go with Agricola. This special edition farming classic. Now, not the zombie version, because even I'm going to be interested in the zombie version, but the new art, refined usability, old expansions, new expansions, out of print decks, and everything else in between. But I expect to see some more details as well as some videos from the who's who that covers all the Awaken Realms sides of things. Sculpted 3D components, core box presentation. Is this a game you are still excited for as the 57th best ranked game of Board Game Geek's hype, hotness, loving on the Euro side of things train? Or is it one of those games, if you're in my shoes, where you just passed it over, you just skipped it, and you just said, I have no appeal. Making this prettier doesn't get me the interest. And so it's one of those games where sometimes you look past the mag incorporation, sometimes the hook of the upgraded aesthetically pleasing to my brain features helps get it in your collection in the first place. I'm looking at you, Castles of Burgundy Special Edition. But also, again, I look at this very similar to Castles of Burgundy in the sense that, are you going to make it more accessible to the table than that honk monster of a box is more than anything else at this point? So time will tell, and we'll see. We're just GameFound feasting at the beginning of this video because we also have one that I am seriously tempted on, more so than almost anything else this month. The Lord of the Rings, the Confrontation Ultimate Edition from Ghost freaking Galaxy. From the good old doctor himself, set back in, well, Lord of the Rings. This is the Ultimate Edition. I have a hard time getting those words out sometimes. They have revealed price points. They have revealed pledge levels. They have revealed new artwork. Slight variation in the gameplay. Contrary and in direct contrast to our previous game, that this one is out of print. You can't buy this one. You are lucky if you can get one of the editions, let alone two of them. Your boy has both. And so that's the main enamoring feature with this, because I do like this artwork. I know a lot of people have already kind of, in the comment section and elsewhere, but I enjoy it for what it is. I am not a detractor in that way. This is launching out the end of the month, and the other reason this is appealing in sort of a yellowing Yangtze Huang version of events now from Ghost Galaxy is because, like a lot of people who are looking at getting a previous edition, well, those previous editions, even for the non-deluxe, can run you $50 to $70 easily on the secondary market if you're lucky, or you're not patient, or you just really, really freaking want it, or it's just, I just haven't seen it available in a long time. And so the standard pledge only being $50 with, again, a similarly upgraded aesthetic is rather appealing, especially because there's not a significant difference in, well, components and overall deluxifications, if you will. Like with the Huang versus Yellow and Yangtze, right? That was plastic versus wood. And people were like, I would rather pay the extra for the wood pieces. And it was actually cheaper at retail when it was originally around. So why would I want an ugly plastified version? But that's the way our hobby is running, so people do that. So $50 for this is not a horrible price. What I fear is it's going to be more of a regular Calyx box size rather than this small size comparatively, or even a slightly larger version with the deluxe edition, if you will, that's previously out there. So if that's going to be the case, like, man, part of the nicety of the small box version of this is it's small, it's portable, it's easy to get out, set up, tear down, right? It doesn't have the clunkiness of these gigantic, very, very aesthetically pleasing card holders. Right? It's a big boys, grown-ups stratego, if you will. I mean, that's what the gameplay is in a nutshell, right? Let's not, call a spade an apple or something else along those lines. I screwed up that metaphor purposely because that's what I do on this channel. I now do it purposefully just to piss people off. But what I'm going with this is that that's what the core loop of this gameplay. It is a meta game more than anything else. Thematic incorporation at its finest with a very simplistic, straight up gameplay. But are you also willing to pay $120 for an upgraded version, which gets you custom painted character stands? Can't even say it with a straight face. And then hardcover rule book and compendium. Ooh boy, getting into the good deluxifications here. This is why they don't send me review copies. Anybody. Deluxe storage boxes. Okay. But that's in addition to like the regular box, it looks like, at least on the crowdfunding update that shows this, and then premium card sleeves. Wait, you need the sleeve cards that are in the standees? Okay, right? So take that for what you will. It should be fine, right? Fellowship versus Sauron, and you can do it up. But that is, unfortunately, one of the hottest games on my list, even owning these two in the first place. Do you really need it? No. Am I a sucker? Kind of. I thought we'd just go with the game found to begin with the video. So we're going over to Monolith, and we're going to see what the return to Rokugan in the Champions of version is going to give us as a cooperative version of the Legend of the Five Rings. You're going to be battling through for power and prestige with a miniature-driven focus as a cooperative version of a slight pandemic twist going up against the dark forces of the Shadowlands. The interesting twist on this one, and I don't think it's technically a semi-co-op, I think it is a straight-up co-op based on the description, but the code of a Kodo, they say, is going to be the main core dynamic of the win-loss conditions in this game, meaning that each of your individual champions has allegiance to their clans, but unless you cooperate together, the sum total of the honor earned by your clan has to be greater than the honorable victory threshold, and so you win or lose together. And this is where it gets tricky, because the next sentence on one of the later updates literally goes into the fact that you're also going to have a glory score representing the fame within the empire itself and your clan, developing your actions on the game board to give you clan objective achievements and keeping the rivalries between these clans strong in order to keep their causes going. So if you're the one with the highest glory, you get your deeds chronicled, and glorified status will have an impact when you play through the campaign, because it's going to be divided between individual scenarios and a campaign as a whole with 3 levels of varying degrees of difficulty. Now, they're really playing into the honor system, as we go back to that just for a second, as you're forming these groups of samurai champions, and how you behave during the scenario will actually have an impact on that. Whether or not you fight with numerical superiority, you're outnumbered, you use deception, wounding an opponent, saving the innocent or not, things like that. There is investigation as part of this with skill-based dice systems based on the previous Legend of the Five Rings systems in the first place, and some are going to be straight up mass combat miniature-driven scenarios, grouped in units, coming with potential extra rules and longer game situations. So if you want to do just a straight-up battle, you can do that as well. I wonder, though, if you're going to have these different modes, how compatible, how easy to transition, are you going to prefer one over the other? Are you looping it all in a higher cost point, so I'm not going to have a choice? That's what I fear with this. I've never been pulled or swayed by Legend of the Five Rings, but I've always been intrigued. You know me, I love hard cooperatives. Will this tease me enough to be interested? I don't know, but I'm going to be watching closely. Then, your boy actually has a copy. Maybe the first time you're going to see one of these go live anywhere on the internet, depending on when this video goes live as well, is Ivy Studios' upcoming one at the end of the month as well, in the form of Realm of Reckoning. And so this is going to be potentially a very interesting twist on what we've seen. It gives me more, just based on descriptive values alone, a card-driven Blood Rage, if you will. And what you're doing here, you're completing and competing in great reckonings 5 warring factions vying for dominance, a realm plunged into ruin, drafting action cards, unique abilities, sets of artifacts, trigger reckonings, forcing you to spend your resources with high-stakes struggle for power or downfall. Reclaim relics, maneuver for control, and, well, deal with all the fate of the afterlife, essentially. It's a closed, drafting, auction sealed bid, area majority style game. So you can see why the comparison there is, at least from a mechanical standpoint. Thematically, not as much necessarily, but you want to know more? Yeah, so do I. I'll let you know in the very near future how I feel about things. Then we're going back to Fantasia. You know, the people who just gave you Unconscious Mind last year. They're giving us a reprint of one of the classical games of all time in the form of Colosseum. The greatest spectacle on stage, of the biggest stage of them all back in the Roman Empire. And you're just trying to impress Titus still. So 1 to 4 players. And we're going to see what Kramer and Johnny Pack have in store for us with a little bit of Ian O'Toole sprinkled on top. They were originally going to incorporate some new mechanisms. They did only, though, decide to reprint more of a classical approach with an Ian O'Toole situation of the grand spectacle in games that this Colosseum classic provides, although there are going to be some surprises sprinkled along the way. Colosseum Av Titus is going to be launching sometime next year on GameFound, and the main reason they're splitting it up, because of the bottleneck they say Unconscious Mind and the production issues created, is they want to create a unique visual identity separate than the original in the first place, unique gameplay experience, so that you're going to be able to own both of these, either of these, and have a more of a separation between the two of them, rather than feeling like they're completing or competing for the same gaming space niche or anything else, so that you don't have to decide either or potentially, which is both a blessing and curse for your wallet, depending on how big of a fan of this game you are in the first place, or at least because you couldn't get your hands on one of the older editions at this point. Weirdly enough, one of my other most anticipated crowdfunding campaigns is one that I've never played, and I initially was not really a fan of and a little bit turned off on, and that is coming here from Tim Fowers and the form of Paperback Adventures Volume 2, a roguelike deck building word game. And it was the word game part that kind of left me a little bit aloof, as you're battling Pulp Fiction characters, but now getting your asymmetric roguelike situation just like a Slay the Spire. And as someone who has found love for that genre, well, now you're giving me ability to play up to 4-player co-op with something called Binding Nexus. Well, then sign me up, because we have about 3,000 people following the GameFound page at the time of me filming this. Modularity, a new character or two that's going to be available with this, a new big box system that you don't need, but a really consistent and solid all-around system that they've created in the first place here with Fowler's backing. And the other thing that led me not to really be interested in the first place as well was because it was primarily designated as a solo game. Now it's 1 to 2 players, and it does cause me to be a little bit biased sometimes, truth be told. And I know a lot of people have really loved what this has put down, and it's probably been a little bit under the radar as a whole. So I really want to see what they can do with this System Nexus cooperative expansion content, and to give me a really good potential way of getting it to my table a little bit easier. Don't believe me, because again, I'm the idiot hyping things on crowdfunding, as I'm always told. Shut Up and Sit Down like it, MPI liked it, Space Biff liked it, Dice Tower, Seal of Excellence. So take that for what you will. It's not just me shilling for the shill. I have to toss this next one in because I don't really know what to make of it from Hodari Spiel. This is Hell Legends, right? This has Diablo the board game written all over it, although we've got that coming up as well from Gas Cannon Unplugged at some point in the future. Maybe 2025, more likely even 2026 at this point. But brave heroes standing against the hordes of hell, hack and slay, dungeon crawl, cooperatively, one-shot legendary monsters, demons, and specialized skill tree, and getting skills at various levels, combining powerful items, build them exactly as you want for mature gamers only. I mean, the big question on everyone's mind in this situation, is it going to be akin to, say, a Nemesis to Alien relationship as well, or not? So we'll see. Mechanically speaking, there's a few videos out there content-wise, and I kind of am interested to see what they can do over on GameFound when it launches. The absolute gamut of depth of big names is why we are only getting to the Isofarian Guard expansion, Veilfward, this far into the video at this point, right? You are getting more Isofarian Guard, more strategic gameplay, new characters, new lands, new mechanics, exploring beyond the borders of the Veil, and you still have the app usage if you so choose. They're also going to give you a little bit of a cinematic mode, story progression, limiting grinding, and streamlines character advancement. And as much as I hate to admit this at the same time, right? It's sort of like video gamers going, why do I always want to play it on hard mode? Sometimes I just want to play it on easy mode so I can get through it and have a good time. Something like this, I would have laughed at probably 3 or 4 years ago. Nowadays, I look at that and I go, that is potentially the difference between me getting this played and not getting it played in the first place nowadays. And if you offer me 60% of the same with less of the grindiness, right? That was the problem with a few games previously, like Etherfields or Tainted Grail for that matter. So if you're eliminating some of that barrier or some of that potential downside from previous experiences that we've seen across the board in other similar scope type games, I actually look at this as a fantastic offering, sort of like what Thundercone Quest did with their Barricades mode as well. The difference they're saying, at least off the little information that we have available, 2 guards playing like 4 guards, 2 battle phases switching between them while facing enemies. Card systems in each one are unique, forcing you to switch out your abilities frequently to keep things more fresh and to keep the core gameplay loop from becoming stale. So that's intriguing. I worry about a little bit of upkeep, but it's also very enthralling at the same time. So we'll see. And from one of our French friends, I'm going to mispronounce the publisher's name, so I won't, but Shifters, another 1 to 2 player game, but your team traveling through space with a rogue light aspect, shifting card mechanism to trigger your card effects efficiently, placing them in a line, moving them as they go, crafting so that each slot triggers different effects along the way, reaches the end of the line, also triggering special effects, how you place, when you place, in order to destroy your enemies in the current area, moving on to the next one, die, rinse, and repeat. We just saw a similar situation like this from Renegade Games. I looked at that and said, it's a solo game with a 2-player Kumbaya handholding. Is this going to be the same? It's 2-player cooperative, campaign, various scenarios, arriving on new planets, fighting opponents. And I would make the argument the sentence I just used for Isofarian Guard is what I would worry about with this one as well. How does the core gameplay loop change? What ways are you giving me to upgrade? Is it going to be more Slay the Spire-esh in terms of the availability or the Dead Cells style of things, where I'm getting more access to things and I'm going to be able to incorporate it more in whatever form? How exactly is that going to work with their die and retry mechanism? I want to fall forward, and I want to fall forward fast. Otherwise, again, the grinding could be the exact same, sort of like an Apocrypha situation where it becomes unfun. If you can give me a good fleshed out 2-player cooperative mode, I'm really intrigued, because you know how I love me some time and space manipulation. Another 5-digit following campaign, and we're going back for a 3rd time at least to the Black Rose Wars, and we're going to see what Ludus Magnus has in store for us with the revised edition for Black Rose Wars. This is a skirmish style strategy deck building magical combat, multi-use cards, going up School of Magic against School of Magic, modular, hex-based, heavy take-that style of game. Revision of the rules, renewed components, exclusive new content. So, fantastic point to get in, but if you're a backer of the first time around with the original, of Rebirth, are you looking for this? And how are you going to change it for the people that do have it already? You're getting a couple new schools, as well as some expansion content that's going to be offered in the stretch goal box as an exclusive. You can get almost all of the other things previously if you're looking for it. And they do say there's going to be an upgrade pack. So how much needs to be upgraded? What is the cost going to be? And how much balance are they bringing to all the previous schools? So that's going to be the tricky point, right? Fully compatible, new schools, expanding the lore, expanding the expansions. I think it's a great game, but it's also one of those in the lines of something like God Tier where you're either all in or you're not. The rules have not been the best in terms of allowing people to experience the absolute fantastic gameplay that is hidden behind them. Rebirth definitely upgraded it, but it's still one of those games where I feel like even having Rebirth, there were significant improvements that could have been made as well from that standpoint. So hopefully we see it here, because this is a game that a lot of people want in something like a Wiz War, but just with more strategy and less chaos and less potential winning sort of situation, King of the Hill style in a Wiz War. You know, as much as I love that game, that's what it sometimes turns into, is just the person left over when all of the other people have killed each other. And this offers more of that, especially as a take that game where you can be killed, but then you respawn. So the question is, like we saw even with an Everdell situation, are you going to, you know, regret getting in previously, or is this going to be a fine place to jump in or a fine place to upgrade to? How do you balance that out? And that's very, 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 very carefully done with some of these companies. So hopefully we'll see it done here as well. So that's it. That is what I've got on my radar of June, right? Like, I wasn't kidding. The absolute run or slew of big name companies with big name games and very interesting projects to tempt you now that crowdfunding still has not burst, right? That's all I got. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you want. Hit me up on Patreon. Let me know what you want to see. Peace out. Stay classy.